Up until the last century, being fat, overweight or obese was actually seen as some sort of status symbol, a sign of wealth that you could afford to eat when others couldn't. In the 17th century, the same wealthy class also bought us the lawn, where only the wealthiest people could afford the peasant labour to tend their many-acred, sprawling lawns without the benefit of 20th or 21st century lawnmowers and robots. We now know that being fat is not good for our health, and we also know that having a lawn is not good for the planet. Is it time that we ditch the lawn? Perhaps you didn't get the memo yet, but lawns really are not good for the planet. And if this is the first time you've heard this, don't switch off yet. Just hold on there a minute, because I'm going to explain why.
Too late.
Come back, come back. But no, seriously, I know how it must sound. First it's no plastic bags, then no bottled water, no SUVs, no milk, and now I'm saying to you, no lawn. That is clearly a step too far, but seriously, if you haven't switched off yet, I'm going to explain to you the reasons that the lawn is bad and offer some sensible advice on how to rewild your lawn and help the bees and the planet and save yourself a shitload of time. And I'm going to finish up with some real life examples of what kind of reaction you might get from people should you take the bold step of rewilding your lawn without explaining to your neighbours what you are doing, and indeed why you are doing it. So do stick around for that. And then finally there is, of course,
Ask Angus,
where today I answer your questions about sustainable shaving. If you don't have time to watch the entire video just now, why not subscribe to my channel and check back later, and please do hammer the like button. It helps me get my message to more people and hopefully affect positive change. So let's get on with it. Hundreds of years ago, grassy lawns originally became popular to prove a person was wealthy enough to waste land rather than farm on it. The elite didn't want anybody to think they might be farmers, mere farmers, so instead of crops they planted grass on the most visible parts of their properties. Only the stupidly rich people could waste land like that and be able to afford to have it cut by peasants with scythes. This is actually called conspicuous consumption, which is basically purchasing something for the specific purpose of showing off one's wealth. It is a disease that has since filtered down through the classes so that people now borrow money essentially from the rich people, so the rich get rich and the poor get poorer, and put themselves into debt so they can be seen driving around in their limited edition Louis Vuitton Porsche Tipex. But anyway, I digress. I put out an earlier irreverent video on overconsumerism, which you can see here. Look, I know that lawns are great. Without the lawn, we couldn't have football, golf, festivals in the park and such like. And if you have a lawn for a practical purpose like this, then knock yourself out. But if you have a lawn on your front garden and have never once kicked a ball on it, sat out on it or sunbathed on it, then you most probably have it because it looks neat and is essentially fashionable, keeping up with the Joneses. The question I'm trying to ask today is how we can change this fashion so that when people look at your carefully manicured lawn, they think there is someone who doesn't care about the bees, the environment or their children's future. We don't regard morbidly obese people with reverence anymore. And really, for the same reason, we should not regard a well-manicured lawn with reverence. Instead, we should embrace rewilding. So, what is rewilding and why should you consider it as an option for your beautifully manicured lawn? Rewilding is when you let the grass grow along with all the weeds and the wildflowers that naturally grow with it, making it a wonderful habitat for bees and insects, the circle of life, like the Lion King. Actually, I used that line in my last video, which was actually on the subject of plastic grass. So a nice companion piece for this one, which you can see by clicking here or in the description below. But let's look at how bad lawns actually are. I'm going to give you some statistics from America, only because they're freely available. But, you know, the British started this, I'm aware of that. But With over 40 million acres of lawns in America, this is the single largest irrigated crop, using more water than corn. For my part, the only time I actually water my lawn is with water from my washing up bowl, which I did rather a lot last year during the drought, which was last year's extreme weather event. The Americans also use 17 million gallons of petrol, or gas as they call it there, to fill up mowers. There's also a ridiculous statistic on how much is spilled annually in filling up petrol cans and pouring the petrol into lawn mowers. Then there's the tens of millions of pounds of chemicals, fertiliser and pesticides, which end up seeping back into our rivers, lakes, reservoirs and seas, and ultimately back into our food system. I'm not picking on the Americans for any other reason that the stats are pretty much freely available. After all, it was the British that started this shit. But lawns are not good for the environment wherever you live, whereas rewilding is. So, what is rewilding, and how do you transform your carbon polluting status symbol into a carbon capturing green oasis for the birds and the bees?
I don't like bees.
They're part of the fabric of life. Without them, the human race, life on this planet, indeed you, would not be here. I don't like dentists, well, apart from my brother, but I do dislike the idea of rotten teeth more, so that's probably not a good example here, although it is. Look, I'm not keen on the unpredictable little fuckers either, not dentists, but they are part of the fabric of life. Without them, life on this earth would not exist, and I kind of like my life, and indeed the earth, however angry I might seem to be. So, we need to learn to live with them, to nurture and to love bees. So, how to rewild your lawn?
Stop mowing
Oh,
it?
don't be silly. I suppose that is one way of doing it, but seriously, it is one way, but there are a couple of things you can do to make it look more beautiful and be better for wildlife. One is to just mow part of it, which I'm trying to do with my lawn, and to plant or even scatter wildflower seeds. I'm no horticultural expert, and I really would suggest that if you take this route, that you read up on the subject. There are quite a few YouTube videos, done on this. For my part, I am planning to plant, scatter, sow, sprinkle, cast some wildflower seeds, or whatever you do, over my lawn in the autumn. That's the fall if you're Americans, as that is when the soil is least fertile and the best time to grow wildflowers that don't require cultivation. I'll try and put together another video in the spring to see how it all goes. Anyway, I'm certainly going to try and make this happen. Take the world in a love embrace, like a true nature's child, born to rewild. This video was never really meant as an instructional. This video was never really meant as an instructional video on gardening, but an explanation of why we seriously need to rethink what we mean when we say the other man's grass is greener. Because unless it looks like this, it is probably not. Please do stick around for Ask Angus, which is coming up, and some insight into the sort of well-meaning ignorance you're likely to come up against from your neighbours as you try and do your best for the planet that we all share. And if you have any comments or any advice on any of this stuff, please do drop your comments below, and do subscribe to my channel, share this video, and please do hammer the like button. Doing all, or indeed any of those things, really does help me in spreading the word and helping the planet in my small but well-meaning way.
Coming up next, it's Ask Angus.
So, welcome back to Ask Angus, that's me. Well, I will be answering your questions directly. So, Anthea, this week's question, please.
What about shaving products for men? I haven't found a decent alternative foam or gel, and razors are another problem.
I have no idea. I use one of these. It's actually like the third one I've owned, I think, in my life. And this one, when I bought it, I bought an extra head for it at the same time. So, because the head goes first. Anyway, I have actually used a wet razor in my time, and I remember using one, and the first time I actually used it with soap. So you can actually use it with soap. So you can buy, you know, a natural soap, get a lather up, and you can do that, and it shouldn't irritate your skin because there's no point using. I don't understand really why people use shaving cream as such, but they're, you know, so says the guy who used a dry razor. So I don't know, but I really don't know the answer to that, except I use one of these. So as promised, coming up next, we're going to give you some insight into the sort of well-meaning ignorance you are likely to come up against from your neighbours and your neighbourhood if you try and do rewilding at home before it becomes fashionable. So Anthea, you are going to read a couple of comments. I should explain. Here where I live, they've actually started rewilding lots of the common areas, and you know, whilst they've made a big hoo-ha about it, it has not gone down well with a lot of local people. Lots of it has, but these are the sort of comments that you are likely to get if you leave your lawn unkempt at this moment in time. So, and there's a few cynical things there, and I have to say, you know, that my local council, I'm seriously considering doing a video on my local council called "How Shit Is Your Local Council When It Comes to the Environment?" Because the only thing they appear to have done for the environment is not to mow the common areas, which has essentially saved the money. So if they'd done loads of other things as well, or any other thing, that would have been great. But everything else has been a retrograde step. So I do actually have sympathy for some of the comments from people who say it's just a money-saving exercise, and why can't we have some rates back? But anyway, Anthea, over to you.
What time do Morrison's open?
You're not Anthea.
I'm standing in for her.
Okay, all right, go on then.
Well, I do believe we should be trying to encourage more insects and feed them. The grass verges do look an absolute disgrace.
This is like not in my backyard. I know the insects need saving. I know the bees need saving. I know the world needs saving. But not here. Not here. Look how terrible it's going to look. So, if we got any more?
The weeds make our little town look like it come from a third world country. I sympathise with the wildlife, but there's still plenty of countryside bordering our town.
I'm just going to leave that one. Is there any more?
I don't often put posts on. I don't mind who cuts the grass these days, but please, please cut the grass. We have grass verges now look like meadows and weeds everywhere. If any councillors reading, please note some of us enjoy a little bit of civic pride.
Okay, how do you stop these people? How do you stop these people and say, excuse me, I think we've got a bit of a misunderstanding here. In actual fact, this is, you know, the lawn is a construct of the wealthy. And this is really, you just couldn't even start with them, could you? Look, I'm going to leave it there, but thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I'll be back again in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, thanks again, and goodbye.